You know that feeling when your whole life gets reduced to a number on a piece of paper? And your own child decides that number matters more than you ever did? Imagine sitting in your small living room, the one you paid off with double shifts and skipped vacations, listening to your son explain calmly, like he's talking about a bank transfer, why he had to move your inheritance into his account without telling you. You're staring at him, at the boy you raised, the boy you defended against teachers, bullies, even his own father. And suddenly you realize he doesn't see you as a parent anymore. He sees you as a wallet. The worst part, your entire toxic family takes his side and calls you dramatic for being upset. You think that's bad? Wait until you hear what he did when you finally said no. You can call me Anne. I'm 63 years old, widowed. I spent most of my life being the peacemaker in a very noisy, very entitled family. You're used to Reddit stories, our relationships, drama, and those wild Reddit AITA posts about toxic family and entitled people. This is exactly that. Just mine isn't anonymous on a screen. It's my real life story. I grew up poor, worked from the time I was 16, and married my husband, Tom, partly because he was kind and partly because we both swore we would give our future kids a better life than we had. We did all the right things. We bought a small house in a regular American suburb, nothing fancy, just a worn couch. A backyard with a half-broken swing set, and a mortgage that felt like a second shadow. I worked as a nurse, he worked in maintenance, and we raised 2 kids, our son Josh and our daughter Emily. From the outside, we looked like a normal, boring family. Inside, little cracks were already there, just didn't want to see them. Josh was our first, and everyone acted like he was some kind of golden child from day one. My parents, his grandparents, spoiled him rotten. He's a boy. He'll carry the family name, my father used to say. If Josh threw a tantrum, they'd shrug and hand him something new. If Emily cried because he'd broken her toys, she was told to share and be the bigger person. You know those family drama Reddit stories where one kid is clearly the favorite and everyone pretends it's not true? That was us. I kept telling myself it would balance out when they grew older. But it didn't. Josh learned early that if he pushed hard enough, someone would cave. At school, if he got in trouble, I defended him, saying, "He's just stressed." When he quit his first job after 2 weeks because his boss talked to him wrong, I paid his rent so he wouldn't fall behind. When he borrowed Emily's savings from a summer job and never paid it back, I made excuses for him and quietly slipped Emily some extra money later. Every time I told myself, this is what a good mother does. She protects her son. Tom tried to be firmer, to set boundaries, but he had health issues and was tired most of the time. After his second heart attack, we both got scared. We started talking seriously about the future. We sacrificed for years. We skipped holidays. We drove that same rusty car until the doors squeaked like a horror movie. We slowly built up a nest egg, a mix of life insurance policies, retirement accounts, and a small inheritance I got when my parents passed. It wasn't millions, but for us, it was everything. It was our safety net, our one shot at a calm, dignified retirement. When Tom passed away 3 years ago, that money became more than just numbers. It became the only thing standing between me and being completely dependent on my kids or the system. I cried for months. The grief was heavy, like trying to breathe underwater. But little by little, I started doing the adult things you have to do. I met with a lawyer. I went over my will. We talked about my inheritance, the insurance payout, the house, everything. For the first time, someone looked at me and said, "This is yours. You sacrificed for this. You get to decide what happens to it." My lawyer recommended I keep things quiet. The more people know specifics about what you have, he said, the more pressure you'll feel. Just tell your children what they need to know, that you're taken care of, and that they'll be treated fairly when the time comes. So that's what I did. I told Josh and Emily that I had enough to live on, that the house and remaining funds would eventually be split 50-50. Emily nodded, hugged me, and told me she just wanted me to be comfortable. Josh smiled, but his eyes were calculating. At first, nothing obvious happened. Life went on. Emily kept working her job. paying her own way, calling me twice a week just to talk. Josh, on the other hand, always seemed to be chasing some new opportunity. One month it was crypto, then a startup, then flipping cars, then some shady-sounding investment with a friend. Every real-life story he shared was just another train wreck waiting to happen. I watched quietly as he burned through his savings, credit cards, and goodwill. Then, one afternoon, he came over with that fake casual tone adult kids use when they want something. "Hey, Mom, mind if we talk about something?" I already had that sinking feeling in my stomach. He started with flattery. Then a sad story about how hard it is out there. Then, finally, what he really wanted. I was thinking, since you're not working anymore and you've got that inheritance and Dad's insurance, maybe you could help me with a business loan just to get started. I'll pay you back, obviously. My heart dropped. It was like every Reddit AITA entitled child story had crawled into my living room and sat on my couch. I took a breath and, for the first time, said something I'd never dared say to him before. "No, Josh, I'm not lending you that kind of money. This is for my retirement. I need to be safe." His face changed instantly. The warmth vanished like someone flipped a switch. "Wow," he said with this bitter little laugh. "So that's it. After everything I've done for this family." I wanted to scream. He didn't pay my mortgage. He didn't stay up nights after double shifts. Didn't sacrifice his own college so we could take care of my sick mom. That was me. Those were my hidden sacrifices. The ones no one clapped for. The ones no one even noticed. But I stayed calm because I knew if I blew up, I'd be the villain in his version of the story. I repeated, "The answer is no. I love you, but I won't put myself in danger for another one of your ideas." He left angry, slammed the door. Didn't call for weeks. But that was only the beginning. A month later, I got a letter from my bank. It was one of those bland, polite notices that almost slip past you, the kind you throw away if you're not paying attention. It mentioned recent changes and ownership adjustments on one of my accounts. My chest started pounding. I hadn't made any changes. When I called the bank, the woman on the phone sounded hesitant. She asked a few security questions, then paused. "Mrs. Collins, it shows here that your son Joshua is now listed as a joint account holder. The paperwork was submitted with your signature, my signature only. I hadn't signed anything." I felt cold all over. I told her I had never authorized that, never signed those papers. After a long silence and a promise to escalate the situation, I hung up and just sat there at the kitchen table, staring at the wood grain. Josh had always been entitled, always acted like the world owed him. But forging my name, messing with my inheritance, my retirement, that was a new level of betrayal. This was no longer just a family drama. This was theft. I called Emily. When she came over and saw my face, she didn't even bother with small talk. I showed her the letter, told her what the bank said. Her eyes filled with tears and then anger. She said slowly, "We need to see exactly what he did." We went in person to the bank, sat down with the manager, and asked to see the documents. There they were, forms with my name, my social, my supposed signature. Transferring authority on one of my main accounts to Josh. And here's the part that made my stomach turn. The signature looked a lot like mine. Not perfect, but close. Close enough that a stranger might believe it. I remembered all the times I'd asked Josh to just sign for that package or fill out those school forms. He'd watched me. He'd learned. And then he used that against me. We froze the account immediately. The manager, to his credit, took it seriously. There were notes that a family member had dropped off the documents. They even had security footage of Josh coming into the branch. My son. The boy whose scraped knees I'd kissed. The teenager I'd stayed up late waiting for when he missed curfew. On a grainy camera, acting like I was just some old lady he could quietly erase. Emily, though, was livid. She looked around that living room and said, "Are you all hearing yourselves? If this was some random man stealing from an old woman, you'd be calling the cops. But because it's Josh and Mom has always been the one to bend. If you're acting like she's the problem, She grabbed my hand and walked me out before I broke down in front of them. That night, lying awake in my quiet bedroom, I realized something. I had raised a son who honestly believed he had the right to steal from me and call it love. And I had helped create that monster by always smoothing things over, always saying yes, always protecting him from consequences. I thought about all those betrayal story and revenge story videos I'd watched online. The satisfying revenge tales where someone finally stands up for themselves after a lifetime of being used. I never imagined I'd be the main character in one. Then she did something I'll never forget. And she was me. The next morning, I called my lawyer. I laid everything out for him. The forged documents, the bank's footage, my family's reaction, my fear. I expected him to tell me it was too messy, too complicated, or that involving the law would destroy the family. Instead, he looked me straight in the eye and said, "Anne, what your son did is fraud. If you let this go, you are telling everyone, including yourself, that you don't deserve to be protected. The real question is, are you ready to stop being the one who always sacrifices?" It hit me like a slap, was I? We spent the next few weeks quietly putting my life in order. We moved my accounts to a different bank. We added extra verification steps. Passwords no one knew, even Emily. I set up a trust with clear instructions. If anything ever happened to me, my assets would go first, toward my medical care and long-term comfort. Only after all of that would whatever remained be divided, and even then, not as a blank check. Conditions, safeguards, no more Josh can just take whatever he wants. For the first time, I was protecting myself like I used to protect everyone else. Then came the hard part, accountability. With my lawyer's guidance, I filed a formal fraud report with the bank and, yes, with the police. I won't lie and say it was easy. It's the idea of seeing my own son's name in a report like that made me physically sick. But I kept reminding myself, he chose this. He opened this door when he stole from me. When the officer took my statement, he asked if I was sure I wanted to proceed. My voice shook, but I said yes. The fallout was exactly what you'd expect from a toxic family used to me keeping quiet. Within days, my phone exploded. Angry calls, accusatory texts. How could you do this to your own child? He just made a mistake. You're going to ruin his life over some paperwork. My sister left me a voicemail telling me I was overreacting and that no one will take care of you when you're old if you keep acting like this. That one hurt more than I want to admit. But between all that noise, there was one steady voice, Emily. She came over almost every day, bringing food, making me laugh, reminding me that I wasn't crazy. She told me, "Mom, this isn't just about money. This is about respect. It's about boundaries, about you finally choosing yourself in this toxic family dynamic." For the first time, I believed her. As the investigation moved forward, Josh tried to play both sides. He called me, sounding wounded. "Mom, just tell them it was a misunderstanding. We can fix this. Don't throw me under the bus." He never once said, "I'm sorry." He never once said I was wrong. It was all about damage control. It's all about protecting himself. I told him calmly, "I didn't put you under the bus. Josh, you climbed under there yourself when you stole from me." There was a silence. Then he said the words that finally killed any remaining illusion I had. "You were going to die eventually, Mom. The money was going to be mine either way." In that moment, something inside me went quiet. Not broken, just done. In the end, because it was a first offense and because of my age, the authorities were surprisingly open to alternatives. The bank reversed the changes on my account, flagged his name, and the case gave us leverage. Through my lawyer, we arranged something that felt both merciful and firm. If Josh agreed, in writing, to have no access to my finances, no rights over my estate, and accept that he would receive a dramatically reduced share in the future, I would agree not to push for full criminal charges that could land him with a permanent record. When he heard the terms, he exploded, called me names, called Emily a traitor, accused us of choosing money over family. But here's the thing about entitled people and toxic family. Members in real-life stories like this, when they realize their favorite toy or compliance is gone, they panic. They rage, and then, eventually, they understand they've run out of moves. A T signed. Part of the agreement meant we went low contact. No more drop by whenever, no more access to my paperwork, no more conversations about my plans for my inheritance. He could call on holidays if he wanted to be civil. That was it. The golden boy cut down to size not by revenge in the explosive movie style sense, but by something quieter and, honestly, more powerful. Boundaries backed by law. My revenge wasn't screaming at him in public or humiliating him at a family gathering, even though sometimes, late at night, those fantasies felt very tempting. My revenge was living peacefully, keeping my inheritance where it belonged, with me, for me. Choosing to leave the majority of what remained after I'm gone and taken care of, not to the son who treated me like a bank, but to the daughter who held my hand in the bank, who sat with me in lawyers' offices, who said, "You matter. Your safety matters." To my extended family, it looked cold. They whispered that I was punishing Josh. Some stopped talking to me altogether. And you know what? For the first time in my life, the silence felt like a gift, not a threat. No more guilt-tripping phone calls. No more emotional manipulation. It's just me, my small house, my memories of the man who actually loved me, and a future I finally took back. Sometimes I sit at that same kitchen table with the afternoon light coming in just right, and I think about how easily this could have gone differently. If I'd ignored that letter, if I'd believed the keep the peace crowd, if I'd let the guilt win, I'd think about all the other parents in similar Reddit AITA. Our relationships, toxic family posts. Wondering if they're overreacting when their grown children cross lines that should never be crossed. So if you're listening to this and thinking, maybe I'm the villain for finally saying no, maybe you've just been cast in the wrong role your entire life. My son stole my inheritance and thought I'd stay silent. He thought I'd be the same exhausted, scared woman who always smoothed things over, who always chose family drama over confrontation. He was wrong. I chose myself. I chose consequences. I chose a future where I'm not just a side character in everyone else's story. Let me know in the comments what would you have done in this situation. And don't forget to subscribe to Golden Years Diary for more stories like this.